Hello, this is a video on IELTS speaking vocabulary. Now, to do well in IELTS speaking, you need to use a wide range of vocabulary. And if you've got your test coming up, it probably doesn't make sense to try and memorize long lists of words, as you're unlikely to remember them and use them spontaneously on test day. Instead, why don't you watch this video where we're going to help you to learn some advanced synonyms for the words that can come up again and again and again. So if you're preparing for the IELTS or you just want to know more about it, then go on, subscribe to Home Studies.
In this tutorial, we're going to look at some low-level, commonly used words that everyone seems to use in the IELTS speaking test. Now, if you want to do well, these are no-no words. They are words that you really shouldn't be using. Instead, we're going to give you 28 adjectives that are less common and higher level that will help you to dramatically increase your band score. So a classic example of a no-no word is nice. There are so many better words than nice to use in your speaking. For example, you could describe your home as cozy. You could describe a time as lovely, a place as pleasant, or a cup of tea or coffee as enjoyable. See, just by changing one word, you upgrade your entire answer and you're much more likely to impress the examiner. So let's take a look at exactly how IELTS speaking vocabulary can improve your exam performance. So here's an example of a question from Speaking Part 1, the interview. The question is, which do you prefer, tea or coffee? Pause the video and answer your question. Then, when you're ready, press play to check out a Band 9 model answer that uses some of the synonyms to nice that we've just discussed.
Oh, I'm definitely more of a coffee person. Every morning I pop into our local cafe on my way to work. It's a really cozy little spot and they make lovely coffee. I usually get an espresso, which is an enjoyable start to my day. Speaking is the most difficult skill to master on your own. That's a fact, because you can learn lists of vocabulary, but you never quite know that you're using those words right or you're pronouncing them correctly if you don't get feedback from a teacher. So if you feel like you need help in assessing or improving your speaking, then please get in touch with us at Home Studies, because that's what we do. We can offer you a free trial lesson with an experienced trainer like me. We can assess your level, and we can also tell you more about our custom-made one-to-one IELTS preparation courses. So if this sounds like something you could need, then get in touch with us. You can find us by clicking the link below. Got it? Perfect. Back to the video.
No-no word number 1 on the list is good. Now, let's be honest, it's just not a very good word to use in a speaking test. There are so many better alternatives. Let's take a look at an example to get some ideas. The hotel was good, though nothing to write home about. By the way, nothing to write home about is a very good idiom. It means that it's nothing special. So, back to the example. What synonyms for good do you know? There are so many possibilities, but let's just take a look at 3. Now here, it's so important that you can pronounce these words correctly. So let's practice that, okay? I say the word and you repeat after me. Decent, solid, satisfactory. That's a long one. One more time. Satisfactory. Great job. So you could say the hotel was decent, though nothing to write home about. So all of these mean that it's good enough, but not excellent. No-no word number 2 on the list is the opposite of good. It's bad. And frankly, it's a bad word to be using in a speaking test. So what do you think? Take a look at this example. Unfortunately, we had such bad weather on our holiday. Can you think of any more vivid adjectives to describe the weather than bad? So let's take a look at some informal alternatives to bad. And because they are more informal, they are perfect for the speaking test. So please repeat. Grim, lousy, ghastly. One more time, ghastly. Great job. So in the example, unfortunately, we had such lousy weather on our holiday. The weather was just really disappointing. No-no word number 3 on the list is great. It's a word that we use a lot in English, but it's not a great option if you want to impress the examiner in the test. So for example, you want to talk about a restaurant and you say that's the best restaurant in town. The food is great. We don't really get the idea of how good the food is. So what alternatives can you think of? What other ways can we say the food is really good? Like good, there are so many synonyms for great, but here are 3 of my favorites. Please repeat. Brilliant, first rate, top notch. So these all mean that something is of the highest level. For instance, that's the best restaurant in town. The food is top notch, 5-star. No-no word number 4 on the list is boring. And by boring, I mean the word is boring and it's literally boring. So Kiara's friends loved the show, but she found it a bit boring. Can you think of a more exciting alternative to describe her feelings in this situation? Exactly. You could say something like, please repeat, dull. Tedious. One more time, tedious. Or blah. Blah. And I love the word blah because it sounds like it is. It's just so uninspiring. There's just nothing there. So Kiara's friends loved the show, but she found it a bit blah. So we're building up our vocabulary set. We really are working on our IELTS speaking vocabulary. But how does this translate into the exam? Well, let's take a look now at speaking part 2. So as you probably know, this part of the test is the long turn. You get a task card and you have to describe something that is on that card. In this case, describe a place where you stayed on holiday. You should say where this place was, why you went there, and how long you stayed there for. You also need to explain how you felt while you were staying there. So, just like in the exam, take 1 minute to make some notes on what you would like to say. Then, speak for up to 2 minutes. It's a good idea to use a timer so you can keep an eye on the time. When you're done with the task, press play and check out a Band 9 model answer where I make sure to integrate some of the examples, some of the adjectives we've covered in the video so far. Good luck.
So we decided to stay at this hotel in Milan because the reviews on booking.com looked decent. Like, we didn't have the money for anything fancy, but we wanted something that was solid. So when we arrived, we couldn't believe our eyes. Like, the place was brilliant. It was so much better than the photos. And what's more, there was a restaurant serving all kinds of Italian food, and everything we ate was top notch.
Now let's get back to our no-no word list. Number 5 is the opposite of boring. It's interesting. But if you're going to say that something or someone is interesting, then at least use an interesting word to say it. For example, I definitely recommend this book. It was very interesting. All right, so what is a more interesting way of saying that? Do you have any synonyms in mind? Here are, in my opinion, 3 very good alternatives. Please repeat: gripping, riveting, fascinating. So all of these mean that the thing that you're watching or doing or reading is really interesting, that it keeps your attention throughout. For example, I definitely recommend this book. It was fascinating. No word number 6 on the list is easy. And I do understand why you might want to use easy words in the speaking test, because you feel nervous and you don't want to make mistakes. You don't want to make things too complicated. But just be careful, because if you play it too safe, then you might not get the band score that you need. The good news is that with our help, I'm sure the test will be easy. So, in this context, what synonyms for easy do you know? Any ideas? So instead of adjectives here, I've actually got some nouns and phrases that are synonyms to easy. Please repeat with me. A breeze, a piece of cake, plain sailing. And plain sailing means that you can do something without any difficulties, without any problems. So, with our help, I'm sure the test will be a breeze. No word number 7 is difficult, and it might be difficult for you to see why this word is on the list. Well, it's actually an A2 word, so that's elementary level. Did you know that? This means the word is just too basic to be using in a speaking test. So Antonio has got to make some really difficult decisions. In this context, what other words can you think of? What synonyms for difficult would fit? So in this situation, I think that these 3 would work best. Please repeat: tough, challenging, tricky. And all of these mean that the decision or the situation needs special attention. You have to think carefully and pay attention to work it out. For example, Antonio has got to make some really tough decisions. No word number 8 on the list, important, like difficult, might be a bit of a surprise to you. But it is also an A2 word. It's an elementary language item, so we don't want to overuse this in the speaking test. It's important that you think of some synonyms that can better reflect your speaking skills. Take a look at the example. Experience is an important factor in deciding who will get the job. So, what synonyms do you know for important that could fit this context? Some of the best alternatives would be, please repeat, critical, crucial, vital. So all of these mean that something is extremely important. For instance, experience is a critical factor in deciding who will get the job. So once again, how does the IELTS speaking vocabulary impact your performance in the speaking test? Well, let's take a look at speaking part 3. Here is a question from the discussion. Do you think driving is an important skill? So pause the video and answer the question. Remember, it's important or crucial that you give reasons and examples for your opinion. Then, when you're done, press play to check out my model answer, in which I give a Band 9 response using some of the vocabulary we've covered in the video. Good luck.
Yes, absolutely. It's a necessity for some people, and for me, it was absolutely vital. You see, I used to live in the middle of nowhere, so if I wanted to go anywhere, I had to go by car. And I remember being so worried that my driving test would be really challenging, but it ended up being a piece of cake. I honestly couldn't believe it. I guess I got quite lucky.
And now it's over to you. So imagine that you and a friend are here and this is your view. It really is beautiful, isn't it? But can you think of another word for beautiful? Beautiful is also an A2 language item. So to describe something so beautiful, we'd want to use more beautiful, more colorful language. So think of your synonyms and why don't you go ahead and put them in the comments section below. We'd love to hear your ideas and give you feedback on whether the words you've chosen fit in the context. Good luck.
Well, that's going to do it. If you enjoyed the video, then give us a like and do stay tuned for the next video tutorials in our IELTS preparation series. So thanks for watching and cheerio!